So I had full intentions this week on doing another video about interpretation, but I ended up having a church member dying, and I've had a funeral that I've been working on all week long. But what I want to talk about today is how to write a funeral or a wedding message. I'm Chad Brooks, I'm a pastor here in Louisiana. I make videos about the Bible, the spiritual life, and the everyday life of a pastor. And weddings and funerals are something that I didn't really learn that much about in seminary. I took multiple preaching classes, and the school I went to offered a special services preaching class, but I never took it. And it took me several years of ministry to really figure out what is the role of the sermon during special services like this, how I can do it, but also what a personal belief is for the role of the message in those moments. So with both weddings and funerals, this is what I believe. Everything I say is absolutely about the people that we are celebrating that day, whether they're two people getting married or whether it's a person that we are celebrating as they go into the church triumphant. It's not about me. It's all about them. The second layer is to make sure that I say things that are honoring to who they are, that help celebrate what they are doing, and that speak words of encouragement, whether it's a wedding or a funeral. And you might be saying, Chad, these are two really different scenarios. But I don't think they are that much. Also, something that I'm hyper aware of now, and I'm not going to go down some long theological train here, is that for most folks, especially, I'd say under the age of 45, there's a strong chance that this wedding or this funeral will be the only religious service that they might be part of that year. I'm a United Methodist pastor, and that means I have this, and you don't have to be a Methodist pastor to have this, but this is part of my tradition. And inside of the book of worship, big guy, like hymnal size thing, are several different beautiful wedding services and funeral services and all sorts of things like that. And so what I'm thinking about is I've already have another resource that sounds beautiful, that has the words, that has the things you would want to say. And my job is just really to lift up Scripture, because that's what this is full of, especially in funeral services. It's just chock full of Scripture. And while this might be the only religious service that people might be part of that year, I'm going to trust in the adequacy and the sufficiency of Scripture as part of these services to be there alongside what I say, because I want for this to be something that's different and something that's separate from what they might see everyday normal life. So in a word, what I'm telling you is I kind of get a little fancy on these sorts of services. But how do I preach these sermons? Like, that's a difficult thing. That's the thing you never learned how to do. And I stumbled upon this a few years into ministry, and I've stuck with it. It stayed with me, and it's something that I found to be incredibly helpful. And this is what I do. I've got a Google Doc template of the standard wedding service and a standard funeral service. And when I go to prepare a service, I copy that into a new document. I make sure I put the person or the person's name in bold and all the places it goes to, and I begin preparing every single thing off of that. But as to the things that I'm going to say specifically, what I like to do is I like to follow a pattern of what I call 3 words. So I've had conversations with the family or conversations with the two people getting married, and I want to share 3 different words about those people and to share that with all the folks that are there in the room as well. And this allows us to get into the things that we expect, the personalization. Like, nobody likes to go to a wedding or a funeral where it sounds like the person officiating it has no relationship with the other parties involved. And for funerals and ministry, sometimes that's a completely legitimate reality. So that means we have to find some ways to personalize what we're saying. And I don't lie. I'll just tell folks, hey, I've had a little bit of contact with this person, or I did not know this person, but I know their family member X and Y Y, and Z. And that immediately just personalizes what's there. I also, like with a wedding, I don't want to say a bunch of stuff that has no bearing whatsoever at all on the couple. I share these things they treasure about each other. And with funerals, I share these things that the family and their friends just said was integral to the part of who they are. And I collapse all these things down into 3 different words. And so I have a brief message, and I rarely speak more than like 8 minutes at one of these services. And the entirety of that generally is wrapped up in me saying, I've got 3 things I want to share to you today about this person. And so the work that I do, the pre-conversations, I just build up. I listen and I see, what rises to the top. I begin putting that together, and I put out those 3 words, and there's a wedding message or my funeral message. So a little bit different of a video today, but I realized that this is the kind of thing that other people might actually have questions about. And so that's how I do a larger service, but more so that's my philosophy of what does it mean to preach a wedding message or a funeral message. So I'm Chad. If you actually like this kind of like super specific pastoral type content, tell me so in the comment box. That's just kind of a fun part about this whole YouTube thing. And until then, I will see you back in the next video, which will be about interpretation.